So my name is Rachel Harrison. I'm the Director of Community Care, and most of you know that. And in April, during COVID, I studied and got ordained as a minister. So that's been really fun. Thank you. And I have a website called recoveryoursoul.net, and in that time I've been doing a podcast. And I'm just so honored and grateful to have the opportunity to come as a minister and speak to you here at Columbine. And they've got me on the schedule every couple of months, so thank you for allowing me to be part of the team. I really appreciate it. So we're reading the book, The Power Within You by Eric Butterworth, which I had never read, so thank you, Sue, for bringing it into our lives. And it's about the exploration of the Bible and the teachings of Jesus. And the two chapters that I got are the defense of Judas and the great demonstration, which is fascinating because I don't know the Bible. I didn't study the Bible. I wasn't raised Christian. As a matter of fact, I was raised Buddhist. And my mom is here today. Raise your hand, Mom. Say hi. So she discovered Tibetan Buddhism right around the time that I was born. She had been a truth seeker. She was on one of my episodes called How a Nice Girl from Oklahoma Became a Buddhist. And it's a really cool episode, and it really talks about her journey of finding that. And one of those pieces of that journey, so I was raised Buddhist, and it was this in New Mexico, very hippie, hippy-dippy. My middle name is Little Flower. So real hippies. I was born in an adobe house, and she lived without any running water or electricity or even a bathroom, like just outside for the first couple of years of my life. So super hippie. And I'm a Buddhist, and we're in this whole thing where we're going to the lamas, and this is back in the 70s, right? So everything was really accessible, unlike it is now. So the big lamas would come, and as a little girl, I remember laying in the robes of the monks that would come, and they'd have their prayer beads, and the smell of that sandalwood and the beauty of that. It was incredible. It was very loving. It was very enveloping in love. So when I was 8, my mom decided that she wanted to go on this pilgrimage and go study with her major teacher, Kalu Rinpoche. And so she left for 3 months when I was 8 years old. So the first month I stayed with my dad and was late to school every single day on getting me to school. If you know my dad, that's so true. And then for the second month, I flew at 8 years old. Who flies at 8 years old? Remember those days where you could just put a kid on the airplane at 8 years old? So here I am, 8 years old. I think I even had like a transfer of airplanes and had to do that by myself, or maybe somebody helped. Anyway, so at 8, I then go to my grandmother's house of my dad's side. And she is a serious born-again Christian. Serious. And she's full of love, and she's raised 6 boys, and she has that whole piece of herself that is love, but she is one of those Christians that believes in her heart of hearts that if you don't accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you are going to hell. And this little scraggly blonde, I was blonde, Rich always teases that when I say something silly, he says she was born blonde. So this blonde, scraggly girl shows up, and I've got these red prayer cords on my neck, scraggly, old, probably years old, always just adding a new one as they all fall off. And I show up on this airplane, and she is traumatized by who this little girl is, right? And she wants to do her best duty to fix it, to take care of me, to love me. And so she cuts the prayer cords off, and she starts her Bible study. So I had a month of Bible study, and which culminated in coming up to the front of the congregation and giving myself, proclaiming that I accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior. Which of course I didn't, but I did what I was told. I was a good little girl, and that's what you do. And I knew that that was the safest, rightest thing to do. So I came home, and this part of me really was angry, even as a little girl, like that I didn't get it. That felt very frightening. It felt not the love that I was used to. It felt dangerous, like if I didn't do this thing. And from a very early age, I knew that that wasn't me. I knew that wasn't me. And so I rejected Christianity. I rejected Christianity even to the point if someone came and knocked on the door, don't come and knock on my door because you did not want to hear what I had to say. I wasn't quite as loving as I am yet. I was kind of in the more like, I'm Buddhist, close the door. So here I am, I meet Rich. So Rich is off in Oklahoma being a rock show. He's the drummer in a band. He's off performing in Oklahoma right now, which is funny that he's doing that. Anyway, so I meet Rich. Rich is going to Faith Bible Chapel in Denver, which is an evangelical church. But I am in love with him from the second I see him. And he is interested in Buddhism. He's interested in what I have to say, which makes me interested in what he has to say. And he doesn't judge me. He doesn't say, you have to believe this other thing. And he starts asking my mom questions. And he starts asking me questions. And he has a curiosity about what it is, which makes me curious. And so we had this kind of openness. And there was a point when we were early dating, and I had always struggled with depression. And I had this night where I was just so filled with sadness. And he said, and I said, there's just a hole in my heart. And he said, that's the place where God goes. And I, at that time, was not ready for that. And so I was like, not my grandma's God. No, thank you. That is not what I'm interested in. But that stuck with me, that peace. And then as we went to get ready to get married, and we were actually driving on the peak-to-peak highway, driving up to Gold Lake Ranch, where we eventually ended up getting married. And he said, well, we're going to have this spirituality in our wedding ceremony. What do you believe? If you're not Christian like me, and you really are kind of a side Buddhist, like, what do you believe? And so I told him what I believed. I believe that God is everything. I believe that we are all connected. I believe that there is something greater that we don't understand. I believe that life is unlimited. And he said, wow, that's amazing, but you can't make up your own religion. And I was like, And then when we came to unity, guess what? I'm unity, and I didn't even know it all that time. So what does that have to do with the power within you? So the story of Jesus is that he has these disciples, it turns out. He has these disciples, and it's coming to the end, and he knows it's coming to the end. And he has come, and he knows that he's walking into something intense. He is well aware of it. This is his journey. He came to teach us something. He came to teach, and the way that unity feels it is that Jesus is a way shower that is showing the Christ that is within all of us. He says over and over again, these things that I have done, you shall do even more. That we are connected, that I am just a man, and I am showing you the potential of all of us, the divine. Scott and Sue have done this great job in the whole series of really talking about the divinity. What is divinity? Divinity, we just say it like, a lump of sugar. Would you like divinity? Sure, I'd take a lump of sugar. No, divinity is that Jesus in you, that God in you, that truth that we are divine, we are of the universal spirit, that is us. We are all God. And we can't feel it. We can't take it. And Jesus knew that. You don't learn and you don't have these experiences from someone just telling you or from you just reading the words. You have to have intense experiences to grow. So what's the most intense experience? Jesus was going to demonstrate this intense experience. He knew that he had to do this. So I could do the first quote for me, Lisa. His experience, the divinity of man, would not be complete until he could not only go through, but grow through the dark hour of, I was going to try to know how to say that before I came up here. Golgotha. Thank you. Forgot to look that up. To not only go through, but grow through. He knew that he had to go through this. So what does he do? So he sits in the Last Supper and he says, one of you will betray me. He is giving the direction of somebody needs to play a role for this to happen. And we give Judas like this bad rap that he is the villain. There's so much energy on him being the villain. He was the one that deceived. You have to have somebody in your life who pushes a button, who does something that hurts you, that pushes a trigger, that creates sadness or darkness or hurt or abandonment. You have to have these people in your life who create these things for you to have your own crucifixion. And Jesus needed Judas. He told him, do what you have to do and do it quickly. He gave him the direction. I am sure that somewhere in it, if you go back, he had no idea why he had to do it. There's stories later of him being sad that what ended up happening was what was happening, but that was his role. And without that role, can you imagine? So he doesn't go, Jesus isn't crucified, they all just have dinner that night, they go on their merry way. This had to happen. And as Jesus saw on the cross, he forgives. He says, forgive them, they know not what they do. Forgive them, they know not what they do. These people, these on our lives that are doing this sacred act of service for us, they're actually part of our journey, and we villainize them. We clinch on to the despair. Oh, it's God calling. Hello? We look at them as the villain. We see the betrayal. We see the hurt, and we can't let that go. We don't see that part of that is the story that needs to happen for us to move forward and to thank them for that. Judas was, I think, his most loyal of the disciples. So then we move to the next phase, where he is showing us the demonstration of the incredibleness of unlimitedness, of divine, that as these human bodies, we all have this suffering. We all have humanness. We want people to show up for us in a certain way. We want life to show up for us in a certain way. We want our relationships to give us what we think that we need. But Christ was teaching us more than that. And so as he moves to the next step, which is actually being dead and then not being dead, to be able to overcome anything, even death. And I think that's my next quote. Since I make half of this up, I actually don't know. It's time to take a new look at ourselves and contemplate the divinity in us, the depths of our innate God potential. It's time to reappraise the principle that makes all overcoming possible. Makes all overcoming possible. The God potential in all of us. So that's the big story of Christianity, right? What happened with Judas? Why was Judas so important? Because he helped that story go along. So my grandmother, who loved me, there was a period of time where I was angry at her. I didn't like getting letters that said, you gave your soul to Jesus and you're not following that direction now, and I'm upset. That felt yucky to me. It made it hard for us to have a relationship that was as loving as we both wanted, because she really wanted this thing from me. So in this story, she's my Judas. That I could have held on to and said, oh, I had this terrible grandmother and she forced me to do these things and she cut my cords off and she demanded that I do these things. But what I see, and luckily I saw pretty early on, was that she gave me an opportunity to be interested in spirituality. She gave me an opportunity to think about what I thought about. That I didn't want to be somebody who was told what to think and feel and believe, and that I was going to do that. That it gave me a curiosity of learning. And as I met Rich, it gave me a curiosity of somebody who had a different approach, who wasn't as intense as my grandmother about it, who was loving, who was interested in what I had to share. And those days of like really being confused, that was my crucifixion in the sense of this story. And we all have those. So I am grateful to my grandmother for that experience, because it has led me to where I am standing right here today. That I knew that it was interesting and important and valuable to me. And I wanted it. Why did I want it? I wanted it because she started that. She started it. And so in our lives, we all have people that we see as our betrayer. An ex-spouse maybe, a child, a sibling, a parent. And we look at those situations and we forget that there's a cosmic dance. I love talking about the dance. Cosmic dance that we do together, where they come to us with this sacred role in our lives to play, to push us, to make us go to the next step, which could be a crucifixion, which could be really dark. And we can either be in the darkness, and we can either lay in it, the world's terrible to me, and nobody ever shows up, and it's just, nothing goes right for me. I can't get a break. You get to decide. When you connect with that divinity within you, when you connect to the knowing that you not only are supported by your higher power, by God, by Spirit, that it is there with you, walking through every step of the way, through every crucifixion, through every time that you're in the tomb, but you actually can resonate that you are that Spirit, that you are unlimited, that you too can overcome anything that comes your way. And then you can see that for the world, and you can look at all the suffering that's happening, and you can feel and know that they too are supported, that they too are unlimited, that if they can just reach down and feel that love and connection, that everything they need is right there, and that every person who played those roles are sacred. And as they're pushing our buttons every day, because somebody pushes our button every day, that person is actually offering you a blessing to turn within, to take all the energy that we do about wanting everybody else to show up for us in a certain way and bring it back to ourselves. Who am I? How do I connect with that divine nature? How do I work on me? How do I feel that love? How do I have gratitude to that person who is my Judas? I can also be a Judas to somebody else. So often, we don't even know it because we're in our own experience and we think, I couldn't possibly do anything wrong. I was just doing my best. I was just, as my last talk, trying to be helpful. But we all are in this dance together. And when we can see the value of our own role and being of a sacred service to somebody else in their experience, and have the heart to be in that in a loving and kind way, and to see the love of the people around us, then we can all overcome. So thank God for Judas. Think of the people in your life that you've given that role to. Can you allow yourself to see them and to yourself as sacred? Someone's shaking their head no. Yes, you can. I know you. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to actually learn about the Bible. Not in my grandmother's way, but in the unity way, in the mystical way, in the metaphysical way. And to know that not everything that was written turned out in that one book. It wasn't the way that it's been written that it was said, but we know that. We can't get 3 conversations away without changing the words a little bit or the meaning or what somebody said, and when you interpret it through your own stuff, we know that. In unity, we actually honor that part. So when we read it from that place of divine nature, the Christ nature, the allowance that we all have everything we need, and will have everything we need in our hearts because we are divine. Thanks for letting me share with you today. Namaste.